Welcome to Marketer's Alchemy, where we pull back the curtain on the intricate world of data-driven marketing. On this show, we delve into the convergence of marketing as an art form and data as a scientific foundation, unveiling the secrets to turning raw data into marketing gold. I'm your host, Catherine Turnoff, Senior Product Manager at Deluxe. Join us as we dive into real-life case studies and give you a front row seat to industry pioneers and visionaries. Hi, and welcome to Marketer's Alchemy, turning data into gold. I'm Catherine Turnoff, and I'm here with Heather Teskey, Vice President of Marketing at Andersen Windows Doors. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Catherine.
So nice to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about your career journey up to becoming the VP at Andersen?
Sure, absolutely. That's always fun to go back in time and think about
down memory lane.
So I went to Colorado State University, had a degree in marketing. This was actually probably chosen by my father, who said, Heather, when you go to college, you need to get a business degree because no matter what you do in life, you'll be able to leverage it. So I've always been a marketer. I started my career on the ad agency side, joined a small agency at that time called the LASIK Group. They were a loyalty marketing firm. So think airline frequent flyer programs, credit card loyalty programs, hotel reward programs. That's where I started. I started actually in the consulting area. So as we think about data, everything we did was around data. It was, how do we acquire the right customer? How are they using their points? How are they earning their points? What is their redemption rate? And so we were really starting to seek, how do we make these programs, these frequency or loyalty programs really work? I will tell you, in my career, one of the things that's been really working for me is I always was willing to say yes to the next challenge. I'm a year in at the LASIK Group. We're probably about 40 strong, younger agency. And I remember walking by the head of business development at that time, and she said, hey, Heather, I'm going to open up an office in Australia. Do you want to come? And I just said, yes. I remember going.
I love it.
Dinner with my parents, and I said, hey, I'm moving to Australia. And they're like, what? So I had this opportunity. I went to Singapore for about 6 months. We had an office there. And I was learning how do these expat offices work, more about loyalty and all of that. And then we ended up getting a 90-day contract with the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. And so we built out their strategy for their credit card loyalty program, and they hired us as their agency of record. And so it was the start. And I spent 4 years in Australia, and I call that my mini MBA. I was really learning all facets of business. I was learning, how to hire people, how to build programs, how to launch programs, and the branding around programs and all of that. So felt really fortunate so early in my career. But one of the pieces of advice I have for people early in their career is say yes. Don't let the unknown get in your way of learning and growing. And that really was a foundational moment for me. So I came back and I joined Campbell Mithun, which at that time was the largest ad agency in Minneapolis. And they had just won the H&R Block account. And they asked me to lead the direct marketing for H&R Block tax prep and tax training school. And at that time, it was the 5th largest direct mail campaign in the nation. But back then, here's what it was. We were really trying to think about how do we leverage customer insights into our direct marketing campaign. And the idea was that in your tax experience, the reason you start needing a tax advisor or somebody else to prep is because you've probably gone through a life stage that has made it more complex. It's made you have to answer questions that you didn't have to answer before. So is it, I just got married? Did I move to a new home? Did I retire? Did I add a child? Like those kind of things were sort of a moment in time that you might question and rethink how you're going to do your tax prep. So I can remember literally we had magnetic walls back in the day, and I had the marketing strategy on my wall, and there was a piece of paper for every different version of marketing we were going to do. And it took into account what life stage, were you a current client? Were you going to be a win back? Were you going to be, a acquisition? It took into account our messaging, took into account our format. Were we going to mail you a postcard? Was it going to be, a number 11 envelope with things in it? Like all of that we literally had on my wall. And so there were 48 different pieces of paper that everybody on the team would come in. It was before, you had sort of the tools we have today for data-driven marketing. But what that did was really teach me how important the right audience, the right message, and the right time. And in tax prep or tax season, you only have probably about 12 weeks to make that.
Right. That makes sense.
Don't get their tax things till the end of January, and they have to be done by April. So the marketing was...
it's quick.
Right. Yeah.
One of my favorite products at Deluxe is our life event triggers. And so I really love that everyone that I talk to has a different application for them, right?
Isn't that so interesting? The more you can like really be on a personal journey and where they are, I think in small businesses, and what are those moments that matter that all of a sudden now my needs from a financial perspective or the tools I need are changing. And so, yeah, so I think all of us have to always go back to that. What is that trigger that's going to make me relevant? And why somebody wants to change. Status quo, procrastination are always going to be there. And you have to incite something because it's work to make that change, to use a new financial institution or use a new tax preparer. And how do you make that really relevant and meaningful? So I grew up in the agency world. Honestly, I got to a point in my life that travel and living that agency world was going to compete with some other things I wanted to do, which was getting married and having a family and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so I switched over to what I call the client side.
Okay.
One of the great switches on a client side in the agency world, what I loved is you could come up with all the greatest marketing strategies. You got a lot of creative juices as you built that. You put it into market and then you measured it at the end. But you didn't really think about the implications to a business when you put that in.
Sure.
You didn't understand the implications if you put the wrong phone number on and what was going to happen to customer service or if the offer was complex. And so what I loved about my client side is now I could see the business impact of marketing and get tighter and tighter with the business, whether it was sales or product. How did I build that out? And how could I see sort of more of the long-term impact of that? So I joined Hallmark. They had bought a company called Gift Certificate Center that was based in Minneapolis, where I live. And they really wanted to extend Hallmark and touching people's lives into the B2B world. We really took the greeting card and the gift card, the innovation of those two, and then the software as a service to be able to deliver. So there, what I learned as a marketer was more about that B2B, the long tail, partnering with sales, and how important we had to be at that table together, product development and innovation, and what were the things of that product that were relevant and meaningful to the audiences that we were going for. And then actually I spent some time with you at Deluxe and had to lead the Deluxe marketing team, which was such an interesting time because we were a company of companies at the time that I joined. I think Deluxe had bought 50 companies over 10 years. And so it was just, wow, we hadn't decided to integrate those from a marketing perspective. So we were moving from being a company of companies to one Deluxe. And we were moving from really being a check company or a manufacturing company, payments company. And so all of a sudden, I got to take the skill set I had on B2B, the skill set I had on consumer, and then also think about your dealer and your reseller channel. And I love that. And I leaned much more into my leadership and building high-performing teams and how do you create a marketing organization that could really be relevant based on data as we went.
And all those different components too, right?
Yeah. And where did Deluxe matter? Where did our brand matter? And where maybe was it more of our customers' brands that mattered? And how?
Right.
So then after Deluxe, I joined Andersen, and I've been there for about 7 months. And this has been really fascinating. So Andersen Windows and Doors is 120 years old. It reminds me a lot of Hallmark. It's so values-based, family-owned. And we have this amazing brand, just like we had at Hallmark, a brand that is known for quality, that has awareness in its marketplace, that's the leader in the marketplace. And I'm here to help really continue to build on that and take us into sort of the next chapter as we think about extending our offer and being this world-class customer experience. And so everything I learned at Deluxe, everything I learned throughout my career gets to be applied here as we do go to different audiences, whether it's the architect, it's the contractor, it's the builder, it's the developer, it might be the homeowner, or it might be the dealer, whether it's our retail like through Home Depot or it's through a lumber yard, and how people can actually buy Andersen Windows and Doors. Andersen Windows and Doors has two business units. So we have a Renewal by Andersen, which really focuses on consumers. It's full service replacement of your windows and doors, where Andersen does it all for you. And then we have a business unit that is the Andersen Windows and Doors, which is the group that I lead along with the brand, that is about selling through our dealers to the builders and the contractors and the architects and the developers. And so just as we have this conversation, it'll be helpful to understand sort of how we've organized ourselves and how we go to market.
And that positioning, that makes sense. Yeah. I really love how you can take first just a wide span of industries, right? And take pieces of each and how they built upon each other to things that you're using today at Andersen. What are some data constants that you've noticed throughout and over across industries?
It comes down to like the elements of marketing stay the same no matter what industry you're in. And that is, do you understand your audience? Do you understand the insights around that audience that is going to drive them to either be your customer or be an advocate for you? Do you understand the mediums and the channels that your customers are, and how do you speak to them? I'll tell you a really interesting one for us right now at Andersen is we have found we have a different strategy when we're trying to reach out to homeowners and when we're trying to reach out to the pros, the builder and the contractor. The pros we find more often on Instagram. I'm just going to take social for a minute. Facebook we might use for more of our homeowner. The pros want authentic content. They want to see the window going in. They want to see it opening and closing. Like it's authentic, sometimes user-generated content, but they're not desiring a really finessed piece. When I go to a homeowner, they're looking for like, let me see the end result. Let me,
the after of before and after. Yeah.
Right. And so sometimes when we'll put content that we think is really relevant at that sizzle, it doesn't resonate with the builders. That's not where they're engaging with us. But when they can see the retractable screen opening in, or they can see the window, that really does. The other thing we found is they will call you out if it seems like it's really not authentic. So let me just give you an example that we did. There's this peeling of the sticker, okay?
Okay.
Every window for Andersen has this sticker on it. And there's this great moment that you peel the sticker off because you're at the end of the project.
You're done. Yep.
You can take that off and now you can wash that window and you're ready to go. Well, we had created some content where we were having this peel of the sticker, but it was obvious that it wasn't the end of the project. It was, you could see still the panels on the wall and it hadn't been finished. Sure enough, the feedback came back to say, no one peels the sticker at that moment. And we weren't being authentic. And so obviously we learned from that and like, nope, we have to really be authentic with the content we're providing because they're going to sort of call us out if it means too marketing and not genuine.
Fair.
And so what's also really important is how are we being true to who we are and, why value this brand over another brand and what does that look like?
And that authenticity matters, right? I feel like as consumers, we can tell if something is an ad or, maybe just a clever way to present, actual real life scenarios. Yeah.
Just one other thing that I think you look at as a marketer as you're going through is you really have to understand your brand and the position your brand has. And I think sometimes as marketers, we get tired. We get tired of our logo. We get tired of our tagline. We get tired of our positioning. We want to be something else. Yet those are things that our audiences really value, and they don't get tired. They don't look at it every day. I think I learned from Hallmark. Hallmark never changed their logo. That crown has always been that crown. The color has always been the color. I mean, you think of the years that they were, you care enough to send the very best.
I do remember that actually, yeah.
And that's why they have the awareness they have. That's why they have the equity in the brand that they have, is because they never got tired of themselves and they always stayed true. And I think because being a family owned, it was really easy to stay true to values. The same thing's happening at Andersen. Andersen is known for quality. Andersen is known for, caring about builders and architects. Andersen's known for innovation and for the service we have. And thankfully, Andersen never got tired of that, realized the value of that. So authentically, I can speak to that. But if I hadn't built that over 120 years, I wouldn't be able to speak to it. And so you have to know what your brand is, and then how do you sort of act in that brand with everything you're doing with your customers.
I think it's very noticeable, especially with Andersen, right? When we were kind of setting up this, I knew immediately, oh, Andersen Windows and Doors. And if I'm being honest, like, why would I know that? I'm not replacing my windows or doors. I'm not a builder. But it was immediately I knew what it was. That brand recognition is something that, I mean, even someone not in the market at the time, or not, not maybe your ideal customer persona, I knew immediately.
So as marketers, I think there's so many things that are like elementary, foundational. And I think wherever you are in your career, really important to get grounded on that. And data is a part of that. Like if you do not understand your data, I'll share with you one of the things I learned when I was at Deluxe is we got really excited about moving to One Deluxe. We got really excited about what we were doing from the consumer and the B2B and things, but we didn't put the measurement first. We sort of put a lot of other things first. And without that measurement, it was really hard for us to feel confident of what we should do with the next dollar. Should we spend it? Should we take it away? Should we spend it differently? And so it took a while for us to get that science around it to understand, oh, okay, this is the value that it brings. And that science needs sales there, they need finance there, and they need marketing there. And they all have to be at the table and product along with it to say, okay, what is the value? Where do we play along the whole funnel, whether it's at the awareness level all the way down to, the decide, the consideration, and the actual purchase. And what does that look like? And so one of the things I would just recommend to others, as you get started, you have to understand your performance. You have to understand your impact. And sometimes it's easy to delay that because it's hard work. It's sometimes data is ugly and it's not all together. But if you don't get that, it's really hard for you strategically to lead and know what's the right next move and how should you do that.
I think that's a perfect opener to actually our first segment.
Yeah.
Alchemy Unveiled, mixing marketing potions. So if we think about all of the different personas and the different stakeholders, right, that go into this that you're trying to satisfy, how do you determine what matters to those different groups and different personas?
Mm-hmm. It comes a lot to research, and I think it's having different people at the table. One of the things we're doing at Andersen is the voice of sales is becoming one of the most important voices, which when we say the voice of sales, it's really the voice of the customer. And what is the customer's need? And so we'll look at our product, roadmaps and innovations. And I love it. The leader that I report into, every time we come out with, oh, here's the next thing we want to do on the product, and this is what we're going to launch. He turns the room to our sales, who is our voice of customer, and says, let me know your thoughts. Is that going to resonate? Is that going to be valuable? Will you be able to sell that? And if they have insights about it, like yes, but, or yes, and, or no, but, we're listening to them and we're making sure that we bring that into the loop and what we're doing. And so as I think about the personas, you have to get close to them. I spend a lot of time right now out in the field with contractors, with builders, with dealers, understanding from their perspective what matters and why Andersen matters. And what is helpful for a lot of them is it bolsters their business.
What does the customer lifecycle look like across B2B and B2C for you?
This is why I think science in consumer sometimes is easier than in B2B. Because in consumer, it's sort of do X, get Y. I get some immediacy. When I think about my H&R Block campaign, I mailed it out, and guess what? About 2 weeks later, I knew if it worked or not. I knew if they were coming in. I could mail more, I could mail less, I could do other things. I could change the media mix that I had. When I look at Andersen, a homeowner often only needs to replace their windows once, hopefully.
Yeah.
If they picked Andersen, then they're
it's once.
However many. We laugh. Sometimes we say if they pick vinyl, we're really excited because in 5 years, they'll need us.
We'll see you again.
Yeah, but Andersen has this quality. And so you're looking at a very big purchase, but a one time, but it's pretty immediate. I can send that mailer out, or I can do whatever marketing campaign I'm doing, and I can sort of see the results pretty immediately. Not so much on the side of B2B. It could be a much longer, and it's harder. So let me just explain like how a sale goes for us. Andersen picks a dealer. So let's just take a lumber yard. Lumber yard decides that they're going to have Andersen Windows as part of their offer. So they might put a display up. They might tell their builders and their contractors that, when you're ordering windows, you can order them through us and you can get it. You can get Andersen. So then an architect is designing a house and they're like, oh, I really want to put that new, Andersen 400 series into this house. And so they're putting it in, and they might be coming out to my website. They might be taking my technical documents so they can CAD design that. Let me tell you, the architect never buys it, but they're a huge influencer because they put it into this design, and now everything's specified to Andersen, and the builder who's working with that architect picks that up, and the builder says, yeah, I need to go have those windows. And so then the builder is going to the dealer to buy the windows. I can't always connect that. The architect was the one that did that, and then the builder, and then what dealer they're going to go to, or maybe they go to the Home Depot because they could buy it there too. So there's this complexity that makes it harder, but I really have to measure the lifetime value of that. Because if the builder buys me again and again and again, then it's worth it. But maybe all the efforts I put in for one purchase wouldn't be worth it. And so to me, on the builder or on the B2B side, you have to be more thoughtful about where they are on the funnel and where are you getting that first time trier to somebody that becomes an advocate and what can I do there?
That totally makes sense. And the attribution would be a little bit difficult. When it comes to Andersen's mentality around innovation, how are you currently looking at revolutionizing how people shop for windows and doors, given all of these different kind of components that we've talked about?
So one of the interesting things for Andersen, which took me as I was getting up to speed, if you think of our mix of revenue, windows, you have more windows in a house than you probably have doors, whether they're patio doors or, they're even entry doors. But at the higher end, the decisioning is actually door first. So I pick out my door and then the windows follow. Yet our business model is there's more windows than there are doors. And so that was a whole mind shift that we had to think about, especially at the higher level when I think of premium spaces. So you're in multi-million-dollar homes and things like that, is the door is first versus the window. So as you think about your innovation, if we start with the window, because that's the bulk, we're realizing that, gosh, we have to have that door solution because the journey of it starts through the secondary product before it gets to the primary product. And so innovation, as you look at that, becomes really important. What Andersen has done, and we have tons of patents. We actually have this really cool wall in our RD&I space that's every patent we've ever had. And it's these glass that tells the story, and it's a full wall. And then there's, of course, empty ones that are the next patents we can get.
Right.
So one of our foundation principles is the innovation matters. And that's why our windows have the quality that they have. And so we came out with something that was called Fibrex, which is a composite material that we created, that we patented, that in our 100 series product, and actually in our Renewal by Andersen product too, is the foundation of the product and allows it to perform better in different ways. And so we had to look at that and say, gosh, we have to go create value from a marketing perspective on Fibrex because it's our differentiator. And so it's 2 times stronger. And so we're out there creating value in a product that no one else has, that we're only using in our windows in certain matters. And now we're creating more of these composite engineered materials. And that is the differentiator of why a contractor might go with a 100 series rather than going with a vinyl window or other things that are sort of in that value category. So what I found is being tight with innovation really matters because that could be why I'm different and better. My D&B might be around this innovation that literally differentiates me from everybody else. Because when you get to it, I sort of think, is a window a window a window? They all open or they don't. They might be a casement. They might be this color. But now it's how you build that window and what's in that window to a contractor and a builder really matter. The homeowner might not understand Fibrex, but the contractor and the builder are going to understand that.
Not only that piece, but as a Floridian, I can tell you, right, windows do matter. They need to be impact, they resistant, there are all sorts of things by region that can kind of change these things. Yeah. How do you understand different regions, or maybe different, like I know it's actually, there are regulations right in Florida that talk to us about, or that tell us how we can put in windows and how they have to be made. But what data types do you use to inform maybe your product team, or how, just to stay relevant and differentiate your products in these different markets across regions?
Catherine, I love that you bring that up, because that's an interesting thing in Andersen. There's only a few in our industry that are national, where we have a product mix that can manage to the coastal, to the Midwest, to the Northeast, and all of that. And so it becomes really important. We have a lot of niche players that are only in the coastal. They've only designed their window so that it can manage the impact. I'll share a fun story. My son is a senior in high school, and he is the captain of his robotics team. And I invited his robotics team to come do a tour of our RD&I, our research and development and innovation area. And so you have all these young high schoolers who all imagine themselves as engineers later in their life. Definitely not my background, always been marketing, don't really understand the engineering speak, though I'm married to one. Anyway, they came in and we got to show them all the testing we do on our windows. One of the most powerful moments in that little tour was what's called the impact test. So we have a wall of windows, and we take a 2x4, and the kids get to propel it through a machine as hard as they can at the window to see if it'll break. Because in Florida, that matters.
Yes.
And we have to be able to manage a 2x4 flying at whatever rate it is that it doesn't break the window. And what happens if it doesn't break the window, the house stays up. If it breaks the window, the house falls often, because the window is a part of the structure of the house. And so we had to innovate to figure out, how do we create this coastal window that can handle that? The other one that I found out on that tour that I was like, who knew, is we had to innovate a window that could manage to your regulations to make sure that the moonlight didn't come off the window, because it'll confuse the turtles until they walk back to the water. I would have never thought that. It's only on one side of your house you might need this, but you need to make sure that we're not confusing the turtles and that's the regulation in your area. And so how do we innovate around that and make sure that we have a compelling product that can manage to these different things? Right now in Massachusetts, they have new energy requirements that make it that you actually have to have more insulation in that window. So we launched a triple pane window, which we had in some of our lines, but in their specific line, to make sure that we could adapt to that. So some is being driven by regulations, some's being driven by energy. Sometimes it's being driven by our customers and what they're asking for. Maybe they want really contemporary, and so they're looking for these more narrow line. Some is being driven by our own innovation of, how are we different? How do we meet a need in the market that is going to be different than anybody else? How do we lead the industry in new innovations and what you can do with our windows? So it can come from outside. We'll look at what's happening in the regulations and on legislation. It can come from inside, and it can come from customers. And one of the things we do is we watch some key, for us, what's really important is how much are home loans right now. Mm-hmm. Hey, you guys, where we are with home loans right now, it's not an advantageous market to buy a new home. And so what's happening, people then decide to remodel their current home, because they're like, I might be here a while, because I'm probably not going to get that 2%. That is right now. So there's these different macro indicators that we watch as a business that then we apply.
What other things do you look at when or add into your predictive models? What other data pieces do you find important?
I would tell you for us, it's a changing marketplace. So I'll just bring it back to, there are a lot of pros who are exiting the business, mostly because of retirement. Some because it just, isn't an ideal business market for them anymore. If you think about pros, they're all small business owners. So, learning, you could be really good at your trade, but then having to learn the business side of it can be a little bit more challenging with it. So one of the things we watch is, what is the profile of those pros and how relevant and prevalent are they in the market, and what kind of pros are they? And then how do I market based on the profile of that pro? Are they somebody that wants to be in the premium? They want to do multi-million-dollar homes? Or are they somebody that maybe is in more of that mid-band that's thinking about the renovation. So is it home improvement or is it new build? And so I'll build that into the model of the type of business. And then within a market, so let's take ourselves to Nashville. Nashville is a great market for it. Everywhere in Nashville is built. They do not have enough capacity of homes for the individuals that live there. Now, in that model, in that market, very different for me than in maybe a more mature market that isn't about, there's no space to build. So now it's more about renovation. How do I take that data in so then I can drive what that looks like? The other thing, Catherine, I take into account is I look market by market and I say, okay, what is my awareness in that market? What is my market share? And what's the total addressable market? And so I will tailor my media plan. If I'm in a market that I have high market share, I have high brand awareness and equity, then I don't need to spend dollars at the top of the funnel creating awareness. I'm going to spend dollars further down the funnel in consideration and purchase. You're ready to act now. You already know how great I am. You know the quality I have. Let me tell you about the products I have and how they can solve your needs, and let me get action. I have different markets where my market share isn't as strong. My awareness and equity aren't as strong. Now I'm going to spend more money at the top of the funnel because I have to create that equity and that awareness. And then I'm going to funnel it down. Then I also layer in, because we're a national, is, okay, but I have this whole portfolio of products. Some of my products only resonate in a coastal area. So I'm not going to talk about them in Iowa. I have other products that really resonate in the Northeast because of style that really resonate there that are not relevant in California. They're like, we do not look like a Northeast house. So now I think of my product levels and which ones make sense in what markets. It also goes to some of the data we pull in. Is this an area that is developing more high density housing, multifamily housing, or is this an area that's really more into individual homes? How do I pull that data in and then understand how do I message myself with the right product based on the need of that market? So there's lots of different things, Catherine. I think I always call it peeling the onion, like onion a little bit more and understand another nuance of it. And how do you bring that to life?
I'm assuming that we're past the days of a bunch of spreadsheets and right up on the wall. And
Yeah.
I'm picturing like strings that, right?
Yeah.
What tools do you use to help make sense of the data, give you actionable insights? Are there tips or tools that you find that are more useful than others?
We lean right now actually a lot on our agency to help us with the predictive modeling. We're informing that model. But we're leveraging their tools because they're doing it for so many others besides ourselves. The beautiful thing is our agency is doing it for both our business units, for the Renewal by Andersen side and the Andersen Windows and Doors side. And so a lot of our modeling at this time, much like why somebody would come to Deluxe, you have all of that secret sauce inside. You've worked with small businesses and you know all that data. So that becomes really important to us. But then when we look at our own data sets and how does that manage, what we're trying to do is tie the product data to the market data to the marketing data. And how do I pull that? And so we build a lot of very specific MSA data structure so that we can understand the market share, the total addressable market, what our readiness in that market, our product readiness and interest in that market, and we'll pull that all together. So we do a mix, Catherine. Some is outside and then some is inside. The things that we should be the best in the world at, that we should understand, that might be more private, that we might not want out there, we keep inside. Outside, we use the others.
Makes total sense. So let's move on to our next segment, from nuggets to campaign gold. So let's talk a little bit about your certified contractor program. Can you tell us high level what it is and kind of how Andersen uses it?
Yeah. So the certified contractor program is for contractors. So think of people that are remodeling or building homes. And we have some requirements there. They need to be in their business for at least 3 years. They need to have a certain percentage of their business that's about windows and doors. And then they need to have the insurance, because now all of a sudden our brand is becoming part of theirs. They can logo their merchandise with Andersen certified contractors. And so we go through a pretty extensive sort of review of these certified contractors. One of the benefits of it is as we have homeowners reaching out to us and they want to put in a window, they're doing a remodel, they might be doing a new build, whatever that is, we connect that homeowner with the contractor. And so what we're doing is we're driving leads to the contractor. And what I found that happens there, whether they get one lead, they get a dozen leads, whatever that looks like, the contractor is now feeling like Andersen cares about them and we want to help their business succeed. And we help them co-brand so that they can use Andersen as part of their positioning. We sometimes even provide dollars for digital marketing campaigns where we can go out and say that we're together. But then they become advocates and loyal to us. And not only are they taking the leads that we're providing them, but then they're taking other leads that they're getting and saying, gosh, Andersen should be a good fit. They're getting more comfortable with our product, how to put it in. They know that it's quality. They know their reputation only increases when they're working with a brand like ours. And so all of a sudden the loyalty comes together. I was talking to a contractor the other day and he was telling me before he was part of the CCP, the Certified Contractor Program, he sort of did a third of his business with us, a third of his business with one of our competitors, and a third of his business with another one of our competitors that would probably be more at the lower end, sort of the budget side. And he said after joining this program, and as he's getting leads from us, he's getting to know us better, we're getting tighter with him. All of a sudden, he's now doing 60% of his business with us and only 5% with that competitor and 30% with the other. And so what I saw from that is the power of like this win-win where we're really authentically engaging with our audience and they're seeing that value, they're getting more comfortable and they're becoming loyalists to us. The other thing I would tell you about it is we probably early in this program were around quantity of contractors. Like, let's just go find them. We're going to go market. Interesting here, Facebook ends up actually being a really good channel to find these contractors, whereas like Instagram is sort of a better channel sometimes on our builders and our architect side. But we were looking at, we just need to get this foundation of contractors so that they can install the windows and doors and things like that. Now we're actually looking at, there's certain markets that we have enough contractors. Like we're really established in that market. We've actually shifted our marketing to really think about the different regions and how we need in a region that maybe we don't have today. And in regions that we feel pretty established, let's go ahead and optimize those contractors. Okay. So now, this is how we're getting them in. So we do pretty rigorous training around that. And then we have these leads that come through the program. And so we're helping contractors, build their business by providing them homeowner leads when they come through us. And so we do marketing efforts to create that demand that then we can share with them. It's really exciting. We do sort of the satisfaction and NPS on those homeowner leads. So now when they come in and they meet with the contractor, we'll do a survey at that point to say, how did that interaction go? We'll find out, were they able to close that deal and be able to do that? And then at the end, we do an NPS with the homeowner. So we were doing that to make sure that we were delivering on our brand promise, that the contractor and the homeowner experience was really valuable. Well, now what we're saying is, gosh, wouldn't that be helpful for a contractor to be able to leverage that reputation in their own business? And so we're allowing them access into the understanding of that satisfaction, and then they can leverage it in their marketing and in their different channels to say, gosh, I have this NPS or this reputation. And so we're helping build their business up, and then they're becoming advocates for us, which is how the win-win happens there.
So it looks like you figured out a way to get at customer success, right? Or end consumer. What about the success of your marketing efforts for those contractors? Mm-hmm. Like, have you been able to track that success, and what has it looked like?
Yeah, that is actually something that we're doing right now, is saying, so we were struggling a little bit with closing the loop, because if you think about the contractor, when they close the loop with the homeowner, they didn't buy it directly with us, they bought it through a dealer. And so sometimes we were missing. So the reason we stood up some of these surveys and understanding is so that we could do a closed loop. The other thing we did with that is we started to reward them, the contractor, when they closed that loop, when they uploaded like the invoice so that we could understand that they had made that purchase. And so The reason we did that, back to why you and I are talking today, is because we needed the data to understand. For a while there, it felt dark to us to know, did it really come all the way through? So now that we're getting that, what we're doing is now, as we think about the leads, we guide them to the contractors that are being most successful in closing the loop.
Okay.
So we're actually leveraging the program. We're soon to be leveraging what we have in our locator. As you come to our website and say, oh gosh, where can I buy? We'll start taking this data in and serving up sort of those that are really being successful in our partnership. So we use the data a lot. It just took us a little while to understand, how do we close that loop? And I think a lot of us marketers, especially on the B2B side out there, that just have that challenge, that like, how do I know in a complex sales and with many different partners, where that comes together?
I loved, though, too, that the customer satisfaction piece helped you close that loop. That's like interesting to know. Well, now for our last segment, we like to have a little bit of fun here in what we call our gold rush round. So what do you see as an important data innovation coming to marketers in the building materials space in the future?
I would really tell you it's probably a mix of a couple. One would be around understanding this full circle that I think we all struggle with as we use dealers and channels. And so how does that come together? The other data that really is coming is as you look at the performance and you're measuring that as a part of the whole house. So the window is only one component that hits your energy. It's actually an equation that's looking at all the things you're doing in the wrap of your house and what that looks like. There is a provocative messaging that when this industry, our window industry, really needs to tackle. And that is why the window matters. Because when I am building a house, when I'm remodeling a house, I'm making choices. I'm making choices between my countertop in my kitchen and the window I'm looking out of. And I probably get a lot more excited in the choice on the countertop
Obviously.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yet that window brings so much when it comes to light, when it comes to comfort, when it comes to your energy efficiency, when it comes to the quality of it. But it's not something that we always raise to the level of our countertop. And so we need the data to understand what the implications are for that, of the life of your home, the efficiency of your home, and even the happiness of your home as you think about, how that comes together. And so there's work to be done to just unearth that, so that as we understand where we are when people are making our selections and our choices, what other things, and they're often not just another window. It might never be another window. The architect might have already designed that, but it might be the level of that window and the investment that you're going to put into it.
Any other pieces of wisdom that you want to leave our audience with?
I think where I would go, and this is probably where my passion lies as marketers, is, sometimes I feel like I use the marketing trade to get to be a leader of people. And to be really effective and successful marketers, as you're just going through your career, a lot of it is in enabling and empowering performing teams to be able to get their work done. I was just talking to my head of finance right before this call, and we were talking about the budget. And we were saying, gosh, marketers always get like, oh, what % of revenue are we and what of that? And I said, hey, look at my budget. And you're going to realize there's a lot of things in my budget that aren't marketing. And that's happened at Deluxe too. The National Sales Conference that I do because I have a great events team is not marketing, but it's in my budget. And when you're doing % ratios, and she's like, yeah, some of those things we've thought to need to move, but there was just hesitation from other marketers. And I just said to her, I said, I just want you to know that my value as a leader in this organization has nothing to do with the size of my budget. I just want to do what's right for the business. And if running that great event is right for the business, housed in my budget, great. If it goes housed someplace else, great. The value I do is the impact to the business objectives and what's right. And so I just think as marketers and as leaders, think about, how do you motivate your people? How do you get the tools to get the job done? I often hear in our employee engagement survey, I don't have the tools to get the job done. Data is a ton of that. How do you enable that? And then how do you let them thrive? But get focused on the right objectives, not on some of those data points. How large is my budget? How big is my team? those things really don't matter. It's the impact you have on the business that I think is most critical. And then the other thing I would say is, as marketers, we are so dependent on our partners. So it's the head of sales has always been one of my closest allies. It's the head of finance. It's the head of product. You all have to be at the table together. And I always feel like you will be most successful when you have the best alignment with that team. When at marketers, we go separate and we just want to go run, our plays without their input, without them on the journey, you'll fail. Even though it might be successful, you'll fail because your partners aren't with you and behind you. And so that's the other thing that I would just look at as you think about your own career and you think about what success looks like, and you really think about the legacy that you're leaving, is the influence, the impact you have on all the other people that you're working with.
I love that. I think I can speak as a Deluxer that is a legacy you have left here. Absolutely. Everyone that knows you and works with you knows that you personify that. So I appreciate that word of wisdom. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, Heather. How can our audience keep up with what you're working on?
I am on LinkedIn and do post from time to time. I'm probably more of an authentic poster in what we're doing. And then just watch Andersen. We're going to do some great things. It'll be a pretty fun next sort of chapter of Andersen as we really bring our brand to life and what that looks like. So
I absolutely will. I'm going to go check out turtle windows, I think. I don't live on the beach, but I want to paint the turtles with my windows. Yeah.
No. And Catherine, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and be a part of your podcast and just share a little bit of my wisdom. It means a lot to me, so I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much. To never miss an episode, subscribe to the show wherever you listen. I'm Catherine Chernoff, and this is Marketers Alchemy.